Hey, welcome to another episode of Fishing is My Summer Job. Today I'm on the Saginaw River in Bay City fishing for farm animals, catfish and sheephead. And the catfish were really cooperative. The sheephead, not so much. I got a couple, nothing great. It was really cold the one morning. It was like 48. This is in the end of June, which is kind of crazy. I pulled my car up, set my rods out, and that yellow bill rod, which I've talked about in other videos, was the hot rod again today. I started off running 2 rods with kind of a Carolina rig using shrimp and hot dogs on the bait, and I was running shrimp on the bill rod with like a Kentucky double rig, and I tell you, it worked so well I switched another rod to the Kentucky double rig with the shrimp, and there were a lot of people fishing this morning, and I outfished almost all of them just because the rig was working. So, I got a few on film here for you today. Hopefully you can enjoy. And if you're interested, if you go on YouTube and just search simple catfishing rigs, you're going to see some. It's just basically a couple different ways of tying your knots so that you can loop in your hooks. I played around with a couple different sizes, circle hooks, till I found what worked. One of the things I miss about where I live and enjoy about being on the Saginaw River is every now and then you get a freighter that goes by. I'm just left the car there to go check baits. What you'll notice when you're fishing this kind of rig, obviously when the fish hits and tightens the line up, it's really easy to tell, but sometimes the fish will hit and your line will go slack, which is always kind of an interesting bite combination. I believe that's what happens on the bill rod and this one. It was warming up a little bit, so as you can see, I'm sitting outside relaxing. You see the bill rod's wobbling a little bit and it went slack. What I do when they go slack is I take that rod out of the rod holder and I just reel down onto it until you got the fish, and then reel to that circle hook sets, and then pull them in. Now this one, none of these catfish were giants, but they all fought hard. This one ran quite a ways because I actually had the line and bait set up outside the picture screen to the right, but obviously another nice catfish. I had a ball. I'm just sitting around Bay City, and this is kind of it's a fishery a lot of guys will try to catch them on, and if you're there the right place with what they want to eat, you're going to catch a bunch. Now while I'm unhooking this fish, I'll set up the next couple clips. I was running 2 rods with the Kentucky rigs with shrimp, and 1 rod, a guy was fishing along there and gave me a rock bass that he had caught, and I was using that as cut bait, was getting nothing on it. So I thought maybe I'd try catching a live fish, whether it's a bluegill or a rock bass, because there's a bunch up and around those rocks, and use that out in the middle to see if I couldn't get a flathead on the other rod. So what happens here, after I get this fish undone, is I'm casting a little white jig in and around those pilings and the rocks, it's kind of amazing that within this literally was my second cast, I hook into a catfish, and I caught it on a piece of night crawler in that little white jig. I also got a couple smallmouth that I didn't throw on here because they were really nothing, and I got a sunfish, which I immediately casted off when I was throwing it out there, and then I got a rock bass. I finished the day up using that as a live swimmer out there to see if we could get something bigger to go. This particular area on the Saginaw River, up around those bridges, there's a battleship upstream, and then downstream they do get some big flatheads, and so I was just taking a gamble that maybe there was one cruising somewhere up in here. Plus, being in around the stone dock, there's a lot of cover on the bottom that people don't realize is there. Just a ton of rock from when they built the docks, and little bits that spill when they offload. So it's kind of a good spot. If you're on the riverside fishing, obviously, I've always fished with smallmouth as a kid, But now coming out, I'm catching some of those catfish that were annoyance fish back then. And get quite a few of them here. Now I'm only fishing like 6-pound test on this rod. It's just a little perch crappie rig that I use for usually catching bait. I've usually got a bobber on it. I broke that off earlier. I got to come around. I had that one rod just resting in the holder, and the hooks are hanging in there, as you can see them. But this one's big enough I went to get the net because I didn't want to break my line lugging it over top of the rocks. About the same size as those other fish, but on a lighter rod, you got to do what you got to do. But again, ton of fun. I just had a blast. And I'm hoping, the next video that I put out will either be a little better walleye video, or maybe a smallmouth video drifting with some mice. I haven't done that yet this summer. I really want to get out and do it. It seems like every time I turn around, something unplanned happens. It's just been the summer of unplanned stuff. Most of it not exactly great. And then, get out there and either do that, or maybe I'll go give those flatheads a try up on the Grand River again. And then there's a couple trips I have that I know I won't film. I usually, if I'm fishing with my buddies, I just leave the camera at home because, what's the point? We don't want to jinx the trip there. If I'm just fishing by myself, I can turn it on. Oh, one last thing. I want to apologize. At the beginning of the video, it was really cold, so I set the camera up on the hood of the car. I did not realize how dirty my windshield was until, I took a look out of that. Now here, what I found out is all the fish that I've been catching have been within 10 feet of the riprap. So I've got the far rod towards the bridge, out with a nice big rockbacks on it. If something bit that, they were substantial. I've got shrimp on both of the close rods, and as you can see, I'm going to get a cat on this one here right now, and it's literally 10 feet in front of that cement structure. There was fish like surfacing and jumping around up in there, and a couple of the fish were dropping eggs when I brought them out, so I think they could be spawning. It could be early spawners, or they're getting ready to spawn and move into positions, and I don't know where catfish spawn. I'm going to assume it's in and around this rock, so those eggs fall down in the crevices and the babies have a chance to survive. But hey, who knows? Yeah, again, nice fish. Well, to finish the video up, I got creative with the camera here. I thought actually was going to film myself throwing jigs, and then that rod got a bite, so I turned it, aimed it over there, and so I'm fighting one in nice and close. This is the last one that I have on film for this video, but it's pretty typical. I would say in that morning I fished from about 8 o'clock till about 12 till 30, and I probably got 15 catfish, and I think I got 3 sheephead. Like I say, these are mainly the early ones when my cameras went dead, and then I just fished for the heck of it. And I fished at about 4 different spots up and down this stone dock, and to be real honest, it didn't make any difference. It was about the same everywhere I went. So the fish were there. Usually you catch 2 to 3 off of a spot, and that's what it was. Well, as we close up with some pictures here, I want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, fishing is my summer job.